Hey guys, come on downstairs. Welcome to our first road trip of the season. We lost 2 out of 3 against the Tigers in our opening homestand, and now we'll head out on the road to take on the Chicago White Sox. There will be 2 stops in this road trip. The first one on the south side of Chicago. The second one will be in Baltimore. But first off, we will head to Chicago. Now, I won't always show you this startup sequence with the plane. This might actually be the only time that I do it. Generally, I'll start with the taxi to the runway because you don't want to see this every time. But just to get it in there at least once, we'll do it. And then I maybe should have done it on a different flight because this taxi is probably like the longest taxi you could possibly have. We go from the very far east side of Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport to the very far southwest corner of the airport for our takeoff. We're getting our pushback while we finish starting up the engines here. Get the trim set where we want it for takeoff. Flaps up, lights on. Still pretty chilly in Minneapolis. Turn on all the de-icer. And now the longest taxi on the face of the earth. Hopefully y'all are watching this on a phone or something small. If you're watching it on a big TV and you're too close, it's a little bit nauseating. But hopefully, for the most part, I'll try to select gates or parking spots on the airport that are a little closer to the runway that we're going to take off from. So this is a pretty long taxi across a couple of runways, but we're going to get wheels up here in Minneapolis, head to the south side of Chicago. Our route's going to take us over to Green Bay and then down the coast, or the shoreline I should say, of Lake Michigan, past Milwaukee, and then into Chicago's Midway International Airport, which is on the south side. If we were to play the Cubs and fly to play at Wrigley, we'd probably land at O'Hare on the north side of Chicago. But we're going to the south side, so it'll be Chicago Midway International Airport. There's also a Chicago Gary International Airport, which is a little further south and to the east, closer to South Bend, Indiana area. And we're just about to our assigned runway here on the far southwest corner of the airport. Feeling lucky to have salvaged that last game against the Tigers and not getting avoid being swept in our opening series of season number 7 here. All right, guys, well, we have been cleared for takeoff on runway 35, and we're going to be taking off straight into the Minneapolis skyline. And we got wheels up in Minneapolis, headed to Chicago. There is St. Paul to the east of Minneapolis. You see the Mississippi River down there as well. So we're going to head east across Wisconsin all the way to Green Bay, and I'll point out Green Bay when we get there. We saw the first 3 pitchers in our rotation. We'll see the final 2 in this series against the White Sox before it turns back over to Jose Barrios. The final 2 will be Jose De Leon in Game 1 of the series, and then Robbie Ray in Game 2 of the White Sox series. up over some Wisconsin farmland here. Again, this is so nerdy, but it's fun. It's nerdy, but it's fun. So the weather we had, it was pretty much cloudy all the way to Green Bay, just like partly cloudy. And then east of Green Bay, it stayed cloudy. But as soon as we turned to the south, we had clear skies and a pretty good view of everything. Good view of Milwaukee, although we were too high to really make out any of the skyline of Milwaukee. We do get a great shot of the Chicago skyline as we come down. Here is Green Bay right here. And again, our sim rate is super fast. That's why you can see it building in, and it looks a little bit funky. And now we turn and head down the shoreline of Lake Michigan from Green Bay, and you can see Milwaukee up there on the left, right against the shore as Milwaukee starts to be built in. And once we get to Milwaukee, it's really not that far from Milwaukee to Chicago. We're out over Lake Michigan now. We're going to go right past the Chicago skyline out over the lake and then circle back in around and come into the south side of the Windy City. Our first road trip of the season. Second flight if you count the flight back from Fort Myers and spring training. It's our second flight of 41 flights throughout the course of season number 7. The craziest flight we will have is we have one road trip that goes 3 games in Tampa against the Rays and then 3 games in Seattle against the Mariners. That's going to be one heck of a road trip right there. There is a good look at the Windy City. We continue our descent into Chicago. Fairly clear skies, maybe a little bit hazy off in the distance. And the forecast is for some cloud cover to roll in before our first game against the White Sox. So our first game against the White Sox should be slightly overcast, but as for landing right now in Chicago, it looks great. We get prepared for our final here into Chicago Midway. One more look from the passenger's perspective back there. Off the left side of the aircraft, coming in over some houses. And we're approaching the runway. And there you can see the Chicago skyline out the right side of the front window. I have a tendency to forget to turn on my landing lights. But it looks like we remembered them on this flight. Not that we need them horribly in this daytime, hardly a cloud in the sky landing. Kind of cool to come in over some railroad tracks. And then a little residential area. And we are cleared to land here. And we're about to touch down in Chicago. So welcome aboard the team charter from Minneapolis to Chicago. Up next, we will have a 3-game series with the White Sox in our next episode. Kind of landed on the right side of the runway. I'm still getting better at that. At some point, I'll get pretty consistently good. But hey, as long as we don't crash and we're on the runway safely, I'll take it for right now. All right, we'll speed things up here and get to our gate. And there's a view north towards the downtown area of Chicago. Stop and make sure we don't run over an airport employee. And here we are. So we've touched down. We're in Chicago. We're ready to take on the Chicago White Sox. We're 1-2 so far in the early season. And let's go see if we can get a series victory against Chicago. It is Mama's Basement, Sports Gaming Minnesota Twins franchise.